Tracy Brabin.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was 20 and the worst thing that I could ever imagine happening to me was about to take place. I was going to be one of those very rare statistics of a woman who is attacked by a stranger, not by someone she knows. I was in my second year at university. The man had seen me walk past his car and had waited ahead for me to turn the corner. As I came up against him, all those words of advice your mum gives you, knee him where it hurts, then run like hell, well, they disappeared. I was frozen in fear. As he shoved me to the ground, trying to rape me, I fought back, but I was battered. It was only the community-spirited Indian neighbour further down the road that saved me from something much worse. However, Madam Deputy Speaker, I count myself as one of the lucky ones. I'd managed to memorise his car number plate, and he was caught an hour later. He went to court. Not many do. He pleaded guilty. I didn't have to go through the horrors of a trial. He was sentenced. I didn't have to look over my shoulder, checking if he was following me. He was a stranger. I didn't have to wake up in the same bed as him, go to work with him as my boss. He didn't use a broken bottle to hurt me. He was alone and not with a group of other men. It was only once and not several times. The point to this story is that even though on the scale of violence against women, I was lucky because justice was done, the following few years were hard. I got afraid walking alone, so I bought a bike. I got scared in the night. I slept with a knife. I was easily startled and cried at the drop of a hat. But Madam Deputy Speaker, again, I was lucky. I didn't have a job to keep down, children to care for, elderly relatives to see to. I could work my way through the impact of this violent assault at my own speed and in my own space. A new investigation by Nata Duvray recognises that violence against women is a global health emergency, an emergency that has impact on the GDP of a country. That after a woman experiences violence like I did, the hours, days and weeks a community and family have to spend taking care of an affected woman has a quantifiable financial impact on her community through the loss of her unseen caring responsibilities and work contributions. Of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, as I said at the beginning, there are all sorts of versions of violence against women: domestic abuse, sexual assault, child abuse, actual bodily harm, murder. Every assault is very different. Some are one-offs like mine. For others, violence is a regular and painful part of the fabric of their lives. At least 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence in their lifetime. On average, a woman is assaulted 35 times before her first call to the police. Now, the police receive 1 domestic violence call every minute in the UK. So just to reiterate that, that's 1 woman every minute who has probably been hurt 35 times before having the courage to ring the police. Now, sadly, as we know, domestic violence can often end in the death of that woman. And as my honourable friend has already pointed out, 936 women were killed by men in England and Wales over a 6-year period. That's 1 every 3 days. 1 every 3 days. So statistically, we can see violence against women is happening in large numbers, and that in some instances, it can be predicted. Polly Needs, the Chief Executive of Women's Aid, said, "The killing of a woman, especially when the woman is killed by an abusive partner or ex-partner, is often reported as an isolated incident. But there's an abject failure to look at the patterns of behaviour. It's as if we accept fatal male violence has an inevitability, not a conscious choice that a man has made to end a woman's life. That these killings are not isolated incidents. Too many follow a similar pattern of violence that make them premeditated. Many are committed in similar settings. Similar weapons are used. Similar relationships exist between the perpetrators and the victims. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, we need joined-up thinking on this issue. We need to educate young men on consent and respect for women. Empower women who are suffering domestic abuse to leave, offering them a safe place to go. Refuse to accept online abuse, and I applaud the Minister's work on making stalking a crime, either online or in person. Support the organisations that work with women and girls who've experienced violence, giving them the resources and time they need. Encourage women to speak out and get the help they need. But of course, a victim of abuse does not fit any stereotype. In my previous industry, Madam Deputy Speaker, and an industry famous for tales of the casting couch, 65%, nearly 3/4 of women media workers have experienced intimidation, threats, and abuse. In fact, the International Federation of Journalists has said that violence against women remains one of the most widespread and tolerated violations of human rights, and its perpetrators continue to enjoy impunity while the victims face losing their job, having their careers ruined, or worst of all, being killed. And it doesn't matter how famous you are or how big your public profile. In fact, this week, Lady Gaga admitted she suffered from PTSD after being raped at 19. The actress in Last Tango in Paris, Maria Schneider, said that the infamous scene with the butter was not consensual and that it was an assault. But because it was in front of cameras, she had to suck it up as all in a day's work. Oprah Winfrey has been very open about having been raped at age 9. We know about these cases because the survivors are in the public eye. But what about the millions that suffer in silence? Are they just statistics in a newspaper, an awful inevitability? Or are they someone's daughter, someone's mum, someone we should be doing everything we can do to protect them? And it is in that spirit, Madam Deputy Speaker, that I urge the party opposite to stand up and take action to ratify the Istanbul Convention to prevent violence against women, protect its victims, and prosecute the perpetrators. Thank you.
Alex Chalk.